At some point in your life, you learned not to be afraid of orcas. Maybe it was SeaWorld. Maybe it was a nature documentary where they leaped alongside fishing boats while people on deck laughed and pointed. Maybe it was simply that no one ever told you that you should be. That was a mistake. Because no animal in recorded history has ever killed an orca. Not a great white shark, not a sperm whale, not anything. The orca sits at the absolute top of every food chain it has ever entered. Ocean, coastline, Arctic ice, without exception, without challenge, and without a single natural predator anywhere on Earth. The orca, Orcanus orca, is the largest member of the dolphin family. It is not a whale in any meaningful biological sense. It is a dolphin scaled to a size that should not exist, running cognitive hardware that took millions of years of relentless predatory pressure to build, operating in coordinated groups that function less like animal packs and more like military units with communication, strategy, and roles. A mature male reaches 9 meters in length, 6,000 kilograms. His dorsal fin alone stands nearly 2 meters tall, taller than most adult humans. His jaw generates a bite force capable of crushing bone. His speed in open water reaches nearly 50 kilometers per hour in short bursts, faster than any human swimmer by a factor that makes the comparison meaningless. But none of that is why you should be afraid. You should be afraid because of what happens between the orca's ears. The orca brain has one of the highest encephalization quotients of any apex predator on Earth. But raw size is not the disturbing part. The disturbing part is the paralimbic lobe. In most mammals, the limbic system, the region governing emotion, social bonding, and long-term memory, is a defined, bounded structure. In orcas, it has expanded into an entirely separate lobe found in highly developed form in very few other species. Neuroscientists examining orca brain tissue have described this region as suggesting a capacity for emotional processing and social awareness that may exceed our own in certain dimensions. What this means in practice: orcas form bonds that last decades. They grieve, they play, they hold grudges, they teach. Every hunting technique an orca knows was passed down deliberately by an older animal, mother to calf, across generations, in a cultural transmission of knowledge that mirrors what humans do with language. And every one of those techniques is a method of killing something. The orca is not simply intelligent. It is intelligent in the specific direction of becoming a more effective predator. Its social complexity, its memory, its emotional architecture, all of it feeds back into hunting. It cooperates because cooperation kills more efficiently. It remembers because memory makes the next hunt better. It teaches because knowledge passed down means the pod grows stronger with every generation. Evolution built a mind, and then it aimed that mind entirely at the ocean's food chain. The hunting strategies of orcas are where the fear stops being abstract. Different orca populations around the world have developed entirely distinct hunting cultures, techniques so specialized, so locally adapted, and so deliberately taught that researchers now classify orca groups not just by genetics, but by culture. The Norwegian orcas that herd herring into tight bait balls using coordinated tail slaps. The Antarctic orcas that create waves to wash seals off ice floes. The New Zealand orcas that beach themselves deliberately to grab stingrays in the shallows, and then teach their calves to do the same, in sessions that look uncomfortably like instruction. But the strategy that changes everything, the one that reframes what this animal is capable of, was documented off the coast of South Africa, in a behavior that researchers are still trying to fully understand. Orcas killing great white sharks, not scavenging dead ones, not ambushing a small juvenile, targeting adult great whites, animals that reach 5 meters in length, weigh over 1,000 kilograms, and represent the apex of their own evolutionary lineage, and killing them with a technique so precise it suggests something close to surgical knowledge of anatomy. The orca flips the shark, upside down. Tonic immobility, a neurological response that renders the shark completely paralyzed when inverted, sets in within seconds. The orca then bites through the shark's body cavity with precision, extracting the liver, the largest, most calorie-dense organ, while leaving the rest. It doesn't eat the whole shark. It takes what it came for, and it leaves. 2 orcas, nicknamed Port and Starboard by researchers, identifiable by their collapsed dorsal fins, have been documented doing this repeatedly off the South African coast. When they appear in a region, the great white shark population vacates. Hundreds of apex predators, animals that fear nothing in the ocean, abandon their territory because 2 orcas are nearby. The apex predator of the ocean clears the water when orcas arrive. There is effectively no documented record of wild orcas killing humans. Incidents are vanishingly rare, most disputed, unconfirmed, or attributed to mistaken identity in poor visibility conditions. That near absence is often used to argue that orcas are not dangerous to humans. It is the wrong conclusion. The absence of orca attacks on humans is not evidence of harmlessness. It is evidence of choice. Orcas are cognitively sophisticated enough to recognize humans as a distinct category of animal. They have had thousands of encounters with humans in the wild: boats, divers, swimmers, kayakers. And in virtually every case, they investigate, sometimes approach, and then disengage. Researchers have documented orcas approaching free divers in open ocean, circling them at close range, and swimming away. The same animals that will coordinate to kill a humpback whale 10 times their size. The same animals that flip great white sharks with anatomical precision, looking at a human in the water and deciding not to. That decision, made by an animal with the intelligence to make it, is the most unsettling part of the entire record. You are not safe because orcas cannot hurt you. You are safe because, so far, they have decided not to. In captivity, that calculation has gone differently. Tilikum was a male orca captured near Iceland in 1983 at approximately 2 years old. He spent the next 33 years at SeaWorld Orlando, the largest orca ever held in captivity, at over 5,000 kilograms, performing in shows, breeding extensively, and being confined to a tank that represented a fraction of the range he would have covered in a single day in the wild. In 1991, at a marine park in British Columbia, Tilikum and 2 other orcas drowned a trainer named Kelty Byrne after she slipped and fell into the pool. Tilikum's involvement was documented but unquantifiable. 3 animals were involved. In 1999, a man named Daniel Dukes was found dead in Tilikum's pool at SeaWorld, having apparently hidden in the park after closing. The injuries were extensive. In 2010, Tilikum killed Dawn Bronshaw, a 22-year SeaWorld veteran, one of the most experienced orca trainers in the world, during a live show. He grabbed her by the ponytail and held her underwater. The attack lasted for an extended period. It was witnessed by an audience. SeaWorld's official position for years was that trainer error was a contributing factor. What the record actually shows is an animal of extraordinary intelligence, held in conditions of severe psychological deprivation, that eventually acted with deliberate, targeted force against the humans in its environment. Tilikum did not snap. He did not panic. Every person who studied his behavior described the same thing: purposeful action by an animal that understood exactly what it was doing. He died in 2017, still in captivity, still at SeaWorld. He was approximately 36 years old. Wild male orcas live between 50 and 90 years. What is happening right now to orca populations is something researchers are only beginning to understand. And what they are finding is deeply strange. In the Strait of Gibraltar, a population of orcas has been interacting with sailing vessels since 2020 in a pattern that has no clear precedent. The interactions, initially described as attacks, later revised to interactions as the behavior became clearer, involve orcas approaching boats, targeting the rudder specifically, disabling the steering, and in some cases, causing the vessel to sink. As of 2024, more than 700 documented interactions have occurred. A small number of boats have sunk. No humans have been harmed. The orcas are not attempting to board the vessels or engage with the people on them. They are targeting the one mechanical component that controls movement, and doing so with enough consistency across individuals and enough variation in technique to suggest the behavior is spreading through the population socially. No one fully understands why. The leading hypothesis, among several proposed, is that it began with a single female, nicknamed White Gladys by researchers, who may have had a traumatic interaction with a vessel and began the behavior as a response. Others in the pod learned it. It spread. It is now documented across multiple orca groups and geographic areas. An orca learned something, taught it to others. They refined it. And now hundreds of animals across a region are disabling boats with a precision that leaves marine engineers genuinely unsettled. There are approximately 50,000 orcas in the world's oceans. They live in every ocean on Earth, from the tropics to both polar ice caps. They travel in pods of up to 40 animals, led by matriarchs who can live past 90 years old and carry decades of accumulated hunting knowledge. When the matriarch dies, her pod's survival rate drops measurably because the knowledge she carried cannot be fully replaced. They communicate in dialects. Different pods have different calls, distinct enough that researchers can identify individual family groups by sound alone. Pods that share geography but not lineage develop different dialects over generations, the way human languages diverge. The communication is complex enough that what it actually carries, what information, what meaning, remains almost entirely unknown. We do not know what orcas say to each other. We know they coordinate hunts across distances too great for visual contact. We know they alert each other to prey location, ice conditions, boat presence. We know calves learn calls from their mothers and refine them across years. And we know that the communication is rich enough, varied enough, and culturally transmitted enough to constitute something that researchers are increasingly reluctant to call anything other than language. The largest predator in every ocean it enters. No natural enemies. A brain architecture with emotional regions that may exceed our own. Cultural transmission of knowledge across generations. A communication system we cannot decode. And the demonstrated ability, in the wild, in captivity, in documented incident after incident, to choose how it interacts with humans. You learned not to be afraid of orcas at some point. A tank, a documentary, a name that sounds more like a product than a predator. Here is what you were actually looking at. An animal that has been perfecting the act of killing for millions of years, in an environment that punishes every mistake immediately and permanently, surrounded by others of its kind that remember, teach, coordinate, and improve. An animal that cleared great white sharks from their own territory, that disabled boats with targeted precision until the steering failed, that held a trainer underwater in front of a live audience and did not release her, and that has looked at humans in the open ocean, slow, warm, completely exposed, and made a decision every single time so far. The ocean covers 71% of this planet. The orca lives in all of it, and whatever calculation it is running when it encounters you in the water, whatever it is weighing, remembering, deciding, you are not part of that equation in the way you'd like to think you are. You are simply not what it has chosen to hunt. Yet.